This one's wife. Spread seller spouts shite. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This one's wife bowled up at the Times 100 summit, and she was interviewed on stage for around about 15 minutes. Do you think that she provided insight into business? Do you think she came out with some interesting observations, even perhaps humorous anecdotes? Of course she didn't. She is the Duchess of Industrial Beige, an empty shell that only exists by purloining the experiences and characteristics of other people by virtue of character trait acquisition. There are many narcissists who are interesting, charismatic, entertaining, and high achievers. You're listening to one speaking now. But there are also many, such as this one's wife, who are completely anodyne, that there is nothing really going on. And the only reason we know about her is because of the man that she married. For some reason best known to itself, the organisers of Time 100 took it upon themselves to have this one's wife attend. A massive clue came about whereby this one's wife stated credit where credit is due by mentioning Ted Sarandos, the co-CEO of Netflix. It's quite evident that he swung it for this one's wife to make an appearance at this event. The actual interview is available on YouTube, but it isn't worth watching because it's basically a load of flannel, as this one's wife spouts shite. For some inexplicable reason, Jessica Sibley, the CEO of Time, gushes over this one's wife and talks about how this one's wife cares for so many people and brings them joy and love. You'd be forgiven for thinking that this one's wife had actually handed a script to Jessica Sibley saying, "Say this about me." You'll notice that this is a common theme with this one's wife. We saw it in the execrable cookery show. It was seen also in the 3 episodes of her shit podcast, whereby guests are expected to compliment her and flatter her. This is because it demonstrates that they're under control and it provides her with pure positive fuel. This is what the narcissist wants. That is the focus, you see, of her show and her podcast, because it's based upon the prime aims. It's not based upon making something that's interesting and entertaining. It isn't based upon asking interesting questions. It's all about serving the needs of this one's wife, and as a narcissist, her needs are the prime aims. In this interview, which really was dull as she talked about the mom narrative as usual, because that's all that she can offer, we then moved on to a particular section which demonstrates just what a vapid, vacuous individual she is. It was reported by Daniel Bates and Victoria Ward in the Telegraph, who stated, "The Duchess of Sussex has defended her passion for edible flower sprinkles." Yeah, when so much goes on in the world, what you all need to hear about is an overprivileged nobody defending her usage of edible flower sprinkles. Introduced as the founder of As Ever, the Duchess appeared on stage at the 5th Annual Time 100 Summit in New York, ahead of a 15-minute session called Her Journey. Yeah, that's the type of nonsensical shite that this one's wife loves. She talked about that she was the happiest that she'd ever been, something I've explained separately in a different video. And she laughed off the public's obsession with her liberal use of edible sprinkles. Notice the derogatory way that her narcissism deals with legitimate criticism of her, something that is copied by her supporters. When you legitimately criticise this one's wife, pointing out her many lies, revisions of history and unpleasant behaviour, you're labelled as obsessed. Not a critic, not an observer, you're obsessed. The fact is, her usage of edible flower sprinkles, which are in actual fact guinea pig and rabbit food, is not something that people are obsessed about, But notice that this is the usual deflection of a narcissist. Rather than addressing it and explaining why she uses them so extensively, instead, she turns it around as a classic narcissistic manipulation to demonstrate you're the problem. There's nothing wrong with me using edible flowers. You're the problem. You're obsessed with my use of them. What's wrong with you? But the fact is, in her show with Love Meghan, she scattered them on everything from sandwiches to fried eggs. She said to Jessica Sibley, the chief executive of Time, "Oh my gosh, you'd think I'm a little fairy tossing them around all the time." The obsession that has come with flower sprinkles. Of all the things we could be talking about, well, indeed. So why don't you? But what do you talk about? Yourself. About being a mother. About your spread. About pimping being an entrepreneur. You're not talking about anything meaningful or insightful, and you have the audacity to suggest, oh, we could be talking about much more important things, yet when you're given opportunity to do so, you never do so because you neither have the intellect or the interest to do so. She does this because her narcissism compels her to always talk about herself. She states, the obsession that has come with flower sprinkles, of all the things we could be talking about, it speaks to the tiny moments of joy that are so effortless and create a little bit of magic we're all craving every day. She admitted that she puts the sprinkles in salads, scrambled eggs, and yogurt parfait. She said the level of charm people have when they see these tiny little dry petals is something I can't wrap my head around but appreciate. It isn't charm, it's disgust, it's dismay, it's disbelief. But of course, the distortion field that is her narcissism tells her people are charmed by my addition of rabbit food to their scrambled eggs. There is a love for the detail and a small level of delight that can be added. When she discussed the launch of her new business, she said it had been an incredibly busy and ambitious 18 months. Really? Speed reading the ingredients on packaging, only launching a range of somewhere in the region of 7 or 8 products and not selling anything? That's incredibly busy, is it? That's incredibly ambitious? However, she said that being a parent offered valuable perspective because what is seemingly so big becomes microscopic in importance compared to family. Well, absolutely fascinating. Don't waste your time watching the entirety of the interview. It provides you with nothing of insight other than demonstrating her narcissism, and once again provides a platform demonstrating what a vacuous narcissist this woman is. She turns up simply as a celebrity. She's not a working member of the royal family. In fact, she is a celebrity spread seller. That's it. And not a successful one, as she hasn't sold a single item yet. And she comes along and spouts shite, because that's all that she can do. She has a limited range. She isn't interesting, she isn't intelligent, and all she can do is come out with the flannel about flower sprinkles and being a mom and talking about charm and joy. People in the audience must have been hospitalised with the eye rolling as a consequence of listening to this nonsense. But once again, this one's wife is completely oblivious to how dull she sounds, how vacuous she comes across. In her own head, she'll be congratulating herself on how the audience were wowed by her little anecdotes about minutiae. This is this one's wife, a spread seller spouting shite, and she will never change. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.